It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandeis Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Brandeis Judges head volleyball coach, Coach Alesia Bennett. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college volleyball?
Well, I didn't know actually. I did my undergrad at Springfield College and I majored in athletic training, and I really thought that was my end goal. And I, got out of college and was practicing athletic training. And then I'll be really transparent. I didn't have success on my board exam. And I was kind of just like searching for other things. So I went back to school and I got my massage therapy license. And then I just felt like something was missing in my life. And I took a job at Clarkson University in upstate New York as the assistant coach. And I fell in love with coaching, and here I am, 2024, and that was back in 2009. So,
What was that experience like going to college and playing for Springfield?
yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. I can't really put into words what it meant to, like wear the jersey that said Springfield on the back. It was, I think like being a Springfield athlete is really unique in the sense of the philosophy at Springfield with the spirit, mind, and body, and the humanics of just being able to serve other people constantly. And it's a place where, a lot of athletes go to, and a lot of coaches, graduate and get into the coaching field. So it was just like, I just feel privileged to be able to have, played for Springfield.
What were some of your biggest accomplishments as a volleyball player?
I was a part of a couple championship teams. We won our conference, the NUMAC. We were able to compete in the NCAAs, and I really, played with some phenomenal athletes, strong women, that I've stayed in touch with. And I got inducted into the Hall of Fame a couple years ago, which is such an honor. And I still hold the assist record at Springfield. And that's because of all the great hitters that I was able to set. So
How is that feeling like for you getting inducted into the Hall of Fame and still holding that record?
just really honored. I was able to play for an AVCA Hall of Fame coach, Coach Deering, that really impacted my life on and off the court. And, I don't think I would be the player and the person that I am today if I hadn't played for such an unbelievable man that challenged me every single day. And then also really continued to push us out of our comfort zone to be successful. So,
What was that transition like for you going from being a player to coming to Clarkson and becoming assistant coach there?
yeah, it was hard, honestly. I really thought that everyone operated the way that we did at Springfield. So my head coach, Johan Dolfer, who just retired as a head coach, he was at Ithaca College, really had to have conversations with me daily about how everyone wasn't like me and didn't operate like Springfield. So,
What was that time like going to Sampson and becoming their assistant coach?
so Simmons was an all-female institution. So that was a unique experience, just really being able to recruit young women that wanted that unique education, but it's also right in the Fenway area. So there's a bunch of colleges within the radius. And I honestly didn't think I was ready to be a head coach. And I think, a lot of head coaches might feel that way going into a position like that, but you're never going to know unless you do it. So I had a great bunch of young women that really just hung on my every single word and just were ready to win and be successful.
What was that transition like for you for going from being assistant coach to a head coach at that school?
Um, I I didn't think I was ready, but it was awesome to sit in that first chair on the bench and really have the ability to make those tough decisions that I didn't always have to run it by. And I really like that. Being a head coach and just having the responsibility to say, like, this is our and my program.
What were some of the things that you learned during your first time as a head coach to then help you to where you are now?
Great question. Um, I think the one thing that I constantly learned that first year, but then always remind myself, is that I'm impacting these young women's lives forever. That I want to think about them, continuing to think about their experience, and that has shaped in their lives every single day.
Coming to Brandeis Judges, what was that experience like for you becoming the head coach?
Um, I mean, I never thought I was going to get this job. I'll be really honest. It opened up and I was like, yeah, I'll get some, interviewing experience. Brandeis is in one of the best Division III conferences, the UAA. And, I just never thought I was going to get the position. I was at Simmons for 3 years and really happy there. But this kind of would have been, a great move. I didn't have to move, physically, and then also being able to compete with some of the best teams in the conference. Yeah, and here I am 11 years later.
What was that feeling like when you did get announced to become the next head coach at Brandeis?
Yeah, it was scary, but it was also really exciting. Being at such a phenomenal educational institution, drawing from, being able to recruit players from different parts of the country, and then being able to compete at the highest level for volleyball.
As a head coach, what were some of the things that you learned during your first time as a head coach at Simpson to take your over at Brandeis?
I think getting to know my players on a personal level was something that I prioritize now, and that I learned in my first couple years that I needed to do that I didn't, because every player is just very unique in how they receive communication, but then also how they push themselves. And I feel it's our job as, coaches, to really get to know them on a personal level, so we know how they tick and how to make them and motivate them.
How is it like building the coaching staff around you and the players around you?
It's exciting that we get to we have the time to really get to know our athletes in the recruiting process, because we don't want always the same kind of athletes. Really thinking about bringing in different personalities and how they're gelling and how they're molding. And that also goes with our coaching staff. I have a full-time assistant who really balances me off in a great way. And I think that's really important, as a coaching staff, that you don't want three coaches the same personality as you. You want a lot of different kind of people.
For you, what was that feeling like stepping onto that court for the first time as a head coach at Brandeis?
Again, I think fear, scared comes to mind. We travel, like we fly places, so exploring cities that I had no idea that I've ever been to, but then also being responsible for, 19 young women while on the road. So yeah, it was scary.
Who were some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
So WashU in St. Louis, Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, Case Western in Cleveland, U Chicago in Chicago, NYU, University of Rochester in Rochester, New York, and Emory down in Atlanta.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Rochester comes to home versus going to Cleveland and playing that team?
Yeah, so our conference is a little unique. So we travel and we play all the teams the same weekend. And the seeding depends on the previous year's rankings. So Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, conference matches are just at a whole nother level because of, the competition. Like it's just literally the best volleyball in the country. So
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams come to your home facility?
it's exciting because a lot of the parents come, a lot of the players' friends come, and a lot of the other teams support our athletes. Like this past weekend, we played Bowdoin Friday night, and the basketball team was there cheering us on, which is exciting.
So far, as a head coach, what have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish?
Um, I think, our alumni support when we're traveling, making sure and, spreading the word that we have alumni coming to our matches, that they're sharing experiences with our current team. The camaraderie that we have between coaches. That's something that's been really important to me because I was a player in New England and a lot of the same coaches are continuing to coach. So they saw me as a player, but now they're actually seeing me as a coach, which is really important. Um, yeah.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your athletes?
Um, so game days are nice. Usually I send an inspirational quote out or a game day text with a cool emoji just to get the girls excited. I have two younger children at home, so usually I get to take them to school, which is nice, and spend a little more time with them during the day. Um, and then it's just kind of relaxing, like doing my scouts, watching some film, talking to some other coaches that have played our opponents. But it's more of a relaxing day for me, I feel, because then I get to just, sit on the bench and enjoy watching, our team compete.
What is that experience like getting to see your kids see you and becoming a head coach and coaching?
Yeah, it's great. My mom was actually my head coach in high school, so it's just really unique that I was, a young player, a young girl running around the court when I was little, and now when my 4-year-old and 20-month-old, come to the gym and able to shag and meet my players, it's just so special.
Can you talk about a course, the culture that you've started to build for the program?
Yeah, so we have an open and honest culture that we're really able to communicate with each other in a transparent way. Kind of like a family, like, you're not each other's best friends, but you're really respecting each other and trusting each other that they're telling the truth and can communicate open and honestly. And that also goes with how I communicate with my players about what I'm seeing and, what messages they're getting from me.
What does it look like during the recruitment process, and what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes?
Yeah, great question. So, a lot of conversations, just me getting to know our recruits, where they're coming from, kind of, what their family's like. I look for athletes, whether they're playing one sport or multiple sports, and what they're doing other than volleyball. Do they have any cool hobbies? Do they have any pets, like siblings? What are things that drive them off the court? What are some challenges that they have? Like, I love asking those questions just to get to feel their personalities more, because being a Division III athlete isn't easy. It's really challenging because, there's no scholarship involved, that you're coming just for the love of the game.
What is it like on the official visit seeing them fall in love with the campus and the volleyball facility?
Yeah, that it's also, really cool to see how they meld with the team, how the team is talking to me about them. If they're saying like, hey, coach, I can really see her, with us, and how their personalities, if they enjoyed some of the classes. Sometimes recruits like take notes and raise their hand in some of our lecture halls, which is great. And just making sure that they're coming to Brandeis for the right reasons because it is such a high academic school.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that Brandeis jersey for the first time?
Yeah, it's exciting. And I always like forward thinking, like just trying to remember moments from their freshman year. So then I can tell them about those moments their senior year. So
What is it like seeing those freshmen achieve those first milestones in their career?
yeah, I was actually just talking to one of our players last weekend. She hit 1,000 kills. And I was bringing her back to one of her experiences where she got a little emotional after one of her matches her freshman year. And she just like shook her head and just said, what was I thinking? And just how you mature and get seasoned as, a senior from your freshman year, because it is hard your freshman year. There's just like so much change going on. So
What is it like as a head coach seeing those seniors put on that Brandeis jersey for the last time?
yeah. Oh, it's it's hard. I constantly want to be present for them every single day, but I need to continue to think about, what it's going to be like without them next year, because it does, go by fast. So I'm continuing to think about the recruits that I'm bringing in and, what they bring, but then also what we will be lacking when they graduate.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those players go either into professional volleyball or going into coaching after their playing career?
Yeah, it's just so special. I think being able to see them, get married and have children and pursue their professional lives, and knowing that you made an impact on them, and hopefully that impact is positive.
What have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish so far as a head coach?
Yeah, I think being able to compete in our conference, I was awarded coaching staff of the year in 2018, which is really exciting, especially because we have some of the best coaches in the country in our conference. Um, yeah, and just I always am honored and privileged to be a part of Brandeis as well.
What are some of your future plans for Brandeis volleyball moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, be a contender in New England, being a top team in our region, but then also competing hard with our conference and, hopefully being able to finish in the top five.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college volleyball?
Hmm. Uh, Enjoy. I think, as freshmen, you're scared, you're worried, are you doing things right? And I think just kind of putting those aside and just taking everything day by day and staying present, and just knowing that you're going to work your hardest on and off the court day by day.
What advice would you give those juniors transitioning into being seniors and leading the program?
That's a great question. I actually just had a conversation with one of my juniors, and we were talking about that. I think what's great is to think about the teams that you've been a part of and acknowledging things that you liked or didn't like, and then thinking about ways in which you can implement that in your spring season in preparation for, the fall of your senior year. I think preparation is huge for all athletes, just continuing to think about where they want to be their senior year, and knowing each year is a part of developing in preparation for that.
What advice would you give those seniors looking to play professional volleyball, whether it's Athletes Unlimited or the overseas route?
Yeah. There's a place for everyone if you want to pursue that. Our assistant coach played at Sacred Heart, and she was thinking about going overseas and finding a team. It's a lot of work, but if you want to do it, there's definitely resources that you can, you know, get and have, and it could be a great experience for some young women.
What advice would you give those players looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
Yeah, another great question. I think working camps, finding mentors, asking other coaches their advice, and also asking for help. I think that's one thing that really good coaches do well, is continuing to bounce ideas off other people, and, just having conversations. It's just a way for you to think about things in a different way.
What advice would you have those future head coaches out there looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Be authentic and just kind of thinking about your coaching philosophy and continuing to do things that feel good for you. Like, don't try to be other people, or don't try to do things because so and so does them, but just really finding ways to stay authentic and do things that feel good for you.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you out on social media along with the Brandeis volleyball program at?
So we have judges_volleyball on Instagram.
Thank you again, Coach Alesia, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again for your interview, and best luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.